So I just got back from Gamescom and I want to talk about one of the most exciting games I saw during that entire event. That game is Valor Mortis from the developers of Ghostrunner, and it caught my attention immediately. When I got invited to go hands-on with it, I knew I had to try it, and it didn't disappoint. Now before we do get into it though, do me a favour and hit subscribe. We are a smaller channel covering all things PlayStation, deals, reviews, previews, and honestly, it helps us out a huge amount. Now, if you know Ghostrunner, you know one more level of the developers do not mess around when it comes to fast-paced action, but Valor Mortis, this feels like them taking everything they learnt and pushing it in a completely different direction. We are talking about a first-person Soulslike set in an alternate 19th century Europe, and honestly, I wasn't sure that combination would work, but it absolutely does. And the setup here is pretty wild. You play as William, a soldier who gets brought back from the dead after some brutal battlefield massacre, and he wakes up to find Europe completely plague-ridden, and all his former allies, they've been corrupted into these abominations by something called nephthoglobin. But here is the twist. This same substance that's turned everyone else into monsters, it's also given William supernatural powers. So you're essentially fighting through this nightmare version of Napoleon's Europe with magical abilities, trying to survive in a world where everyone, and I mean everyone, wants you dead. Yeah, that setting really works well for this kind of game. We're talking muskets and swords, but also dark magic and corrupted soldiers. Napoleon's eternal guard are lurking around every single corner, and from what I experienced, the boss encounters are gonna be absolutely brutal. So speaking of brutal, this game is difficult. I died more times than I'd like to admit, and this was just the opening tutorial level. They told me this opening section is fairly linear to teach you the ropes, understandably so, but the rest of the game will open up significantly. It's classic Souls-like approach. The combat system is where things get really interesting though. It's this unique mix of melee, gunplay and magic that actually works surprisingly well in first person. Right trigger controls your sword, left trigger swaps between your gun and eventual magic abilities, and honestly, it's exactly what you'd expect from each. Guns are powerful, ammo scarce, so you can't rely on it. The sword is great fun to use, but it's tied to a stamina meter, so you need to be careful with those swings. Even sprinting drains stamina, so resource management here, crucial. Alongside your offensive moveset then is defensive, and blocking here works, but you still take minor damage, so you can't just basically turtle your way through encounters. The real trick though is the parry system. Parry at the last possible moment and enemies enter this stagger state. So for smaller foes, one perfect parry is enough to finish them off with a brutal follow-up attack. Larger enemies, however, might need multiple successful parries before they are vulnerable. You can even build up this stagger meter with regular attacks too, but it is going to be much slower. And this leads to what I found really clever. It's how the game nudges you towards aggressive play while still maintaining the methodical Souls-like feel. Attacking builds up a meter that lets you cast magic. You're going to need that, trust me, for crowd control. I was using fire all over the place. There's also the health recovery mechanic. If you block an attack but don't get the parry timing right, you'll lose health. But for a short window after that, if you land an attack, you recover that lost health. It's this brilliant way of encouraging, risk versus reward. It keeps you staying aggressive instead of simply playing it too safe. Other than that, for combat, one thing that did take some getting used to was the attack animations. They have this slight wind-up time that you need to account for, especially when timing parries or trying to interrupt enemy attacks. I was always just like a moment too late, personally. But once you get the rhythm down, and you will very quickly, the combat feel is just generally incredibly satisfying. Now, outside of the combat then, let's talk about kind of the more general experience. Exploration, you can see this in the video. Incredibly well done, movement feels good. You'd expect that from the Ghostrunner team. Then there's a checkpoint system, of course. It uses lanterns that are scattered throughout the world. These are bonfires. And they work exactly like you'd expect from a Souls-like. They act as save points where you can upgrade your stats, restore your health flasks. But, as kind of typical, the kicker, they also resurrect all of the enemies in the area. So there's always that kind of, again, risk-reward decision of whether to activate one or push forward. The progression system too in these moments at the checkpoint look really deep too. There's a skill tree for magical abilities, but you're also upgrading core character traits, health, stamina, damage output, all the fundamentals. From what I could see as well, you're going to have a lot of flexibility in how you build that character. The fire magic I played with as well appears to be just the beginning. I could see hints of other elemental abilities and utility spells that'll probably no doubt open up with that progression. To round out gameplay then, I have to talk about the boss fight, because Just wow. This thing is an absolute unit, massively mutated with multiple arms, and it throws everything at you. Swing attacks, gun attacks, all sorts of chaos happening at once. Some of the attacks from this boss and the later enemies are actually completely unblockable. They flash red, so your only option is to dodge, and yeah, you can parry certain attacks, but in this moment, no parrying, no blocking, just get the hell out of the way. This guy is brutal. He's a fantastic test of everything you've learned this far. Now, I spent about 20 minutes of my hour-long demo on this fight, probably 10, if not more attempts to get past the thing. When I finally beat it, I was celebrating, feeling pretty good about myself, actually. Then the developers just started laughing. They said, oh, by the way, and suddenly there's a second phase. I had absolutely 0 health flasks left, and I got squashed in record time. They got me good. But honestly, that's exactly what you're signing up for with the genre getting destroyed like that. The boss design here is incredible. The way it moves, the variety of attacks, the sheer presence of this thing. It's exactly what you want from a Souls-like boss encounter. Now we need to talk about the visuals, because the world design here is genuinely stunning too. What you're seeing here really shows off those oppressive, plague-ridden landscapes that perfectly just capture that alternate history European setting. You've got these misty forests, crumbling architecture, and this constant sense of decay and corruption everywhere you look. The enemy design is particularly impressive. These aren't just generic zombies. They're these grotesque mutated soldiers that still retain hints of their former humanity, which makes them even more unsettling. The way they move, the sounds they make, it all adds to this atmosphere of something fundamentally wrong with the world. Animation quality as well, top-notch across the board. Combat feels weighty and impactful. Enemy movements are fluid and threatening, and even just walking through the environment feels natural and responsive. My last note on the visuals then, and just quickly, is this was an early build running on PC, and one thing you will notice with this footage is the UI is hidden. Normally this shows stamina, health, weapons, enemy health, all the important meters basically. Exactly what you'd expect. The audio work really stood out to me too. Weapon sounds have proper weight to them. When you swing that sword, you're gonna feel it. The music and sound effects I heard as well, solid. They're creating this constant undercurrent of tension. But what really impressed me was the voice acting. The lead actor really delivers on that kind of panicked, desperate state that William is in. You can hear the fear and the confusion in his voice, which sells the whole brought back from the dead in a nightmare world premise. And the enemies, they have these gnarly grunts and sounds that just get under your skin. It's not overdone or constant, but it's just enough to make every encounter feel, genuinely threatening or creepy. So overall, what's really impressed me was how One More Level has managed to make the first-person perspective work for a Souls-like. It's not easy, you lose that kind of spatial awareness you get from third-person games. But they've compensated with some really clever ideas, from visual feedback to audio cues. The atmosphere as well, just generally incredible. This plague-ridden alternate history Europe feels genuinely oppressive and dangerous. The enemy designs as well, I want to see more, because so far they are grotesque in all the right ways. So yeah, Valor Mortis was one of those games that caught me completely off guard at Gamescom. I went in curious about what the Ghostrunner developers would do next, and came away genuinely excited about what could be a really unique entry in the Souls-like genre. So if you're a fan of challenging action games, or you've been looking for something that does something different with the Souls-like formula, this is definitely one to keep on your radar. The combination of first-person combat, the historical setting, and that aggressive but careful gameplay balance feels like something pretty special. Alright, so have you been following Valor Mortis? What do you think about the first-person Souls-like concept? Let me know in the comments. And if you do want to see more hands-on coverage from Gamescom and other events just like it, that subscribe button genuinely helps us keep making this kind of content. Alright, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers all.